Welcome back. Today's tutorial is going to be about how to create the warp pylons. And don't forget, if you learn anything from these videos, don't forget to like, subscribe, perhaps share, and ring the bell icon to get notified about new content. Okay, open up your Blender file of your Starship. We've now got the primary hull, the saucer section, pretty much modeled. The neck section, the engineering section is essentially done. We'll be doing a little bit of additional work when we are adding textures. You're going to have some choices to make. And the next thing is we're going to do our warp pylons, the items that hold up the warp engines. All right, so I want to Shift S. I want to move cursor to center to get this started off. And this may sound a little ridiculous, but we're going to use a cylinder. Okay, here's why. The edges, now this picture, I knew I had it somewhere. It's from William McCullars' fabulous webpage when it was up and running. And you can see the people who originally worked on the Enterprise built the warp engine pylons off of, well, something that looks like a 2x4. But it was more than that. That end slotted into the ship. There was a square hole cut into it, and these just slipped in and held in place. But what we saw on the outside, and of course that's what we're modeling, is this rounded edge here. Now, granted, it's not that easy to see in this picture. So here is the Enterprise during its first restoration when it was brought to the Smithsonian, the National Air and Space Museum. And you can clearly see that the front edge of both of the pylon supports, both of these pylons, are rounded. Here is another shot from the same time. You know, notice a lot of paint has gone missing. We're seeing the port side of the ship, and you can see quite clearly this rounded edge here. And then this slot goes all the way up into the warp engine itself. And here's a conduit for all the wires that were needed to make the warp engines, the spinners and lights, function. Here is a closer shot. But this is actually from the starboard side. You can actually see some detailing down here. We're going to be putting these numbers in much later. And here are those lights that we put in our engineering hull a couple of tutorials ago. But you can clearly see the front is also rounded. Another shot from Chris Trice showing the same area. You can see quite plainly that this is a rounded edge. Another one from Chris. Both of the warp pylons, front and back, are rounded. And then there's these 4 washboard patterns that are on the inside. Now, this one is actually modeled. This one is painted, because remember, the port side of the starboard engine was only detailed after, for the shooting of The Trouble with Tribbles, during the second season, and it was the last time that the model was modified. And they painted on detail here and on the inside of the warp engine itself, and then threw on this section that came out to mimic the look of the other engine. It had never been detailed. And of course, a little less glare on this picture. It's easier to see that rounded backside. And a close-up from Chris Trice of that section, of the washboard sections. Here it is rounded on the back of the port side, and a close-up. And here are some, in case you think that there might be a difference between now and when they started, this is a shot actually from the production model. This is from Where No Man Has Gone Before. You can tell because the sensor dish up front, the deflector dish, is very large by comparison. It's actually larger than the front lip of the cowling here. The warp engines are not lit. They are solid wood painted red. They have spikes on them. There are some lights on, but there are 4 windows across here, and there's an extra window here. So, plus there is no phaser nipple, and the lights in back of the saucer here are not lit, and they have yet to finalize the position of all the blinking running lights. But the warp engine, this is a shot from the Immunity Syndrome. It's actually a shot out of a magazine of a single frame from the Immunity Syndrome. But you can see quite clearly rounded in the back, and the fronts were also rounded. This is actually slightly clearer, also from where no man has gone before. You can tell not only because of no phaser nipple, extra lights, but also the impulse engine has been altered. They painted over the 2 large rectangles and made it look like there were several holes, like rocket engines. And of course, there's no detailing on the shuttle bay. Also, the shuttle bay landing lights are not lit: green, orange, red, just like what we were doing in our last tutorial. And of course, an extreme close-up taken by Gary Kerr. A nice close-up that showed us all the detail that you'll never see, even no matter how hard you look on the original series. The tailpipe socket adjustment access detail that we're going to put in, and the 1384 number just below the pylon, which you can actually see here. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a cylinder and we're going to modify it so it's the correct length and the correct width. So let's see here. Let's go into our model. Shift A. Oh, first Shift S. Cursor to center. Whoops. Cursor to center. Shift A. Mesh. We're going to add a cylinder. I want to make this 60. All right. So we've got this cylinder here. Let's grab it, move it here, and then I'm going to go Control 3. Alan Sinclair does have one drawing that shows the layout of the washboard section of the warp engines, but we didn't use it in setting anything up. It's not totally necessary. So what we're going to do is we're going to try something a little interesting here. We're going to scale this down. Now, it's got to be thinner than the neck, so scale. That looks about right. But what I want to do is I'm going to change my pivot point to 3D cursor. And I'm going to, let's see here, how do I want to do this? I'm going to select a point kind of right beneath this cylinder here. I'm going to pick these rows of verts, Shift S. I'm going to move cursor to selected. So it's right in the middle of the hull. Deselect, tab out, deselect, Control 3. So now my cursor is in the center of the engineering hull. I want to make sure I've got my new cylinder selected, and I'm going to rotate this about 48 degrees. Rotate 47. 47 degrees looks good, but my cylinder is still a little too wide. So I'm going to change this back to bounding box center, scale, and move this in about like that. Okay, back to the 3D cursor, rotate 47, almost there, scale, bounding box, scale a little more, 3D cursor, rotate 47, and what I'm worried about is the width. So almost, probably just a tiny bit more scale. .3D cursor, rotate 47. Bingo, I think that's it. All right. Actually, you know what? I want to, where these two would intersect, I guess I actually want to raise that pivot point just a little bit. So I'm going to highlight this tab, and I'm going to pick right about here. Does that look like where these would intersect? Kind of. Actually. Right here is where they would intersect. I'm going to take a plane, put the bottom of the plane where I expect these, here, let me make it more obvious. If I go to Control 3, Alan has very nicely drawn a yellow center line for both the warp bench and pylons and where they intersect. I threw a plane in, centered on my cursor, rotated it 90 degrees, and scaled it so that the edge of the plane, see, the bottom edge, is right where those two yellow lines meet. I picked both of the vertices on that bottom line and subdivided, so I got something right in the middle, and I'm going to Shift-S cursor to select it. In theory, I no longer need the plane. So I'm not going to delete it, I'm just going to move it out of the way. And I'm going to go back to layer 1. I just wanted to see the illustration without anything in the way. Control 3. All right. So now I want to grab my cylinder, and I want to rotate that 47 degrees. Rotate 47. Okay. Rotate 43. Perfect, and it's aligned perfectly. All right, so we're going to use 43 degrees when we eventually rotate this. All right, now comes the interesting part. Unfortunately, this I've got this so that there is a line right in the center, and I don't want a line right in the center. What I want is I want a face right in the center. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to go 7. So I'm looking straight down on this. I want to rotate this. Whoops, hang on. Let's make a bounding box center. Rotate this 3 degrees, I think. Go to 1. And now, yep, right in the center of this face. Okay, good. So now we're going to enter edit mode. So Tab, A to deselect everything, and we're going to grab, say, the front half. So B, and pick the front half of all the verts, and just move them forward till they're right on the outside of the pylon here, right on the outside edge. A to deselect. B, we're going to move these back. Okay, very nice. A, and I'm going to Tab, Shift, Alt, Control, C, and Origin to Geometry. It places it right in the center. So that's the exact center. Very nice. Now, we want to scale Z And we want it somewhat larger than our than what you see in the straight-on view from the side, because we're going to angle this 43 degrees, remember. So let's go to Control 3, rotate 43, oops. I want to pick 3D cursor, sorry. Rotate 43. All right, so that's not bad, but it's not high enough, so I can't tell whether that's right. And, of course, I'm being an idiot. If I go to Z, and I grab Z and move this up, you can actually see when it comes out of the engineering hull. So grab Z, and I want to move this till it's just inside. Control 3. Now, let's rotate 43. And that's good, but here, rotate 43. You'll notice it doesn't make it all the way up to the warp engine. All right, so we're going to go to 1. We're going to scale, oops, bounding box center, scale Z, open it up a little more, Z, grab this and move it so that it's just entering the hull. So I can confirm that by going to Z. Yep, just inside. Control 3, rotate 43. Oh. 3D cursor, rotate 43. Oh, very good. All right, that is so very close. I'm going to make it just a little longer. So scale Z, whoops, bounding box center, scale Z, make it a little longer, not much. Go back to Z, move it in the Z direction until it just enters the hull. Control 3, rotate 40, well, boy, oh boy. 3D cursor, rotate 43. All right, very nice. That's definitely going to be in the, whoops. That will definitely be in the warp engine. Ah, what the heck. All right, so let's deselect it and look. So can we see? Oh, yeah, we've got air. So it looks like it'll be inside the warp engine. That's fine, but I think I need to make it just a little longer. Scale Z. Oh, come on, Eric. Bounding box center. Scale Z. What the heck? It can go halfway into the warp engine for all I care. Move this up so it's just, well, so it's inside a little bit. And then Control 3. Rotate 43. Pivot from the 3D cursor, rotate 43, Z, and make sure there's no air gap. There's a little gap. All right, so Control 3, Control Z, grab Z, move it down just a little bit. Control 3. I've still got my pivot on the 3D cursor. Rotate 43. Okay, good. Z. No air between the pylon and the engineering section. Very good. All right. We're going to shade this smooth. If you want, you can always add an edge split modifier for the ends and for the windows later on. 1 Z to make it transparent. Okay, cool. Now, We want to add some lines for the windows on the outside and for these 4 sections on the inside. So we're going to tab in to edit mode, Control R, and actually, how do I want to do this? Oh, yeah, I set up visual references for myself last time. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to 7. I'm going to tab out of this, A to deselect, and I'm going to add a simple plane. All right. So we're going to scale this down. Sorry, bounding box center. We're going to scale this down until it's as wide as one of these. Okay, and length is going to be something different, of course. So I want to bring that up. Until it's just... I should have done this with a box. But whatever. All right. So I'm going to have this touch the outside of our pylon, and then I'm going to rotate it. Actually, I'm not going to rotate it. I got an idea. So let's go back to 7. We're going to tab into this. Now we're going to scale in the Y direction. So scale Y. And we want it to be as long as, oops, one of these. Now, here's the fun part. Let's go to Control 3. I actually don't want to rotate this. What I want to do is I'm going to tab into it, A to deselect. I want to B and just grab one edge and move this up so that the end just touches the outside of my pylon. So we know that if we go to 7, that that's still there. All right, cool. Control 3, A, B to select the lower end here, Shift B, I'm sorry, B. All right, and we just move this down until it similarly just touches right above my pylon. All right, cool. Very nice. All right, so tab out, Shift Alt Control C, origin to geometry, places it right in the middle. And now, I'll tell you what, let's give that a texture. I'm going to make it black for now. All right. If we go to Z, we can actually see that that's placed very nicely. All right, so I'm going to go to 7, Z. I'm going to Shift D to duplicate that. Move it into place here. Shift D. Move it into place here. And Shift D, move it into place here. All right, cool. Control 3. And of course, all we have to do is raise these until they are just above the pylon itself. They'll be pretty much in exactly the right place. Give us a nice reference when we're doing this. All right, so Cool. All right, they are all in the correct spot. All right, now we could use some windows on the other side, and we're going to be using our Booleans anyway to pull this off. So I'm going to run over here where I keep a copy of my windows, and we only want a copy of the rectangular one, so Shift D, move layer 1. All right, cool. So now Z, Shift D, and we need 2 more copies. Actually, I'm going to get rid of that and Shift D. Okay. So left to right, those are all the same because we've got 3 copies in exactly the same spot. All right. So now I'm going to go to 1, grab one of these copies and move it up here. And grab one of these copies and move it down here. I know it looks stupid, but Control 3. We can grab this and move it out here. We're going to do the same with each of these. If you want to use the G, that's G and Y, or you can just use the arrows. Now I'm going to zoom in. So what I want is I want the center of the object to touch the edge of the pylon. Then what we're going to do is make sure this is on bounding box center. We're going to rotate until it is parallel with our pylon. We're going to do that for each of these 3. This one's really close. Rotate. Good enough. Rotate. Now, the reason why I don't just go in and match the angulation and rotation and everything is it's easier to see the placement of all of this. And right now, we're not actually about to do Booleans yet. We're actually doing all of this so that we can make cuts on our model. So now, I'm in Z so that nothing is transparent. It's all solid. And I hit Tab to enter edit mode. And when I hit Control R, I can now see where my cuts are going to be. So I want one just above, another one just below, and we're going to do that for all of them. Okay, we're going to put something right in between those two. Something right in between these two. And something right in between those two. Okay, good. We're also going to throw something right down each of these. So Control R. Kind of box these in. And Control R. Box those in. Okay, cool. So that gives it some geometry to bite into if we indent these or cut them out or anything. I submit it's probably not necessary, but it's an option that I'd like to have just in case. Now we're going to go out front, and we're going to do exactly the same thing with each of the windows. So Control R, just above, Control R, just below, Control R, just above. This line suffices for just below. We'll add 2 more here. One above. One below. And then one just on the outside of all of these. And Control R just on the inside. Okay, great. All right, so now I'm going to join these three windows. So right mouse click on one of them, Control, whoops, right mouse click, Shift, right mouse click, Shift, right mouse click, and Control J. Okay, we know that they're all centered properly and ready for Booleans. So I'm going to make a duplicate, Shift D, of our pylon. We're going to go to Modifiers, add a modifier, Boolean, move this up. Intersect is just fine. Use our selector and grab one of the windows. That did not work. Okay. I did not grab a window somehow. There we go. And you can actually see that all I've got are windows left. Okay, good. Apply that. And we can even apply our edge split because we've just got three spots that should be windows. All right, so now, actually, you know what? I'm going to move those. Since those are still highlighted, I'm going to move those to the second layer just to get them out of the way. So now we've only got one pylon left. And we're going to add a Boolean modifier, move it up. We don't want intersect this time, we want difference. Selector, grab our windows, apply. All right, great. We're going to highlight the, now we want to highlight the plugs, the things that are slightly out of the pylon, and we're going to move them out of the way. Move to somewhere else. Okay, great. Now, I had put the windows here on the second layer. I'm going to go grab those. I'm going to go to Materials, and I'm going to grab Glass. Okay, great. Now we're going to move those to layer 1. Okay, so now the windows are in place, and with the edge split still on, the warp pylon looks nice and smooth. If we tab into it, you can actually see all the vertices and so on. Actually nice, not bad. Now, the next thing is you have to make a decision as to what you want with these washboard sections in the back. We could do some Booleans, or we can modify the lines, add some more Control R's, and just extend the faces inwards, or we can leave them alone for now and place basically cubes right where these are and add washboard textures, which is frankly the easiest way to go. So for this tutorial, that's what we're going to do. I'm going to take one of these. I'm going to duplicate it, Shift D, Control 3. I'm going to move this out of the way here, and I'm going to rotate this. Remember, this isn't actually rotated. We moved vertices, so I'm going to go make sure it's on bounding box center, which it is. I'm going to rotate this until it looks flat. All right, so that's close enough. What we're going to do is Shift S, cursor to selected, deselect everything, Shift A, and add a cube. All right, that's going to be a big cube, so Z. We're going to scale this down, and it should be centered right on our little rectangle, and it is. So I'm going to scale this down until it matches the length. Great. Now I'm going to scale X until it matches the width. Cool. And here's where it's going to be a little different. We're going to scale Z. We're going to come in and we're going to make sure that this gets really thin. Scale Z. All right. Hard to get much thinner than that. And the only thing that I really want to do is I want to tab into this, A to deselect, and I only want to grab the upper vertices. So B, I've got the top 4 selected, right? And I'm going to, well, it's easier to do this from looking at it on top. So if I hit scale and make it slightly smaller from, say, left to right, then top and bottom is actually has been scaled in too much. So now we're going to scale Y and make the ends match the sides. And that's pretty darn close. So if I A to deselect, Z, tab out of it, I've now got a rectangle with a slightly smaller top than bottom. I don't need my duplicated plane anymore. X to delete that. All right. Now, we know that it's the right size because we based it on our earlier rectangle. As a matter of fact, if I go to 7, move this out of the way, I can actually get rid of each of these. I don't need them anymore. Okay, we're going to move our rectangle in place. All I need to do is have this center just actually outside. I don't want it actually on the pylon. Here's why. When I rotate this, it should just be inside the pylon on the top and on the bottom. Oh, it's not. All right, so rotate just a little bit. All right. Now, is that okay at the top? No, it is not. All right, so let's go halfway back and then grab this and move it in just a bit. There we go. That should make it match. There, it's just in on the top and just in on the bottom. Okay, cool. If we go here, throw in a texture, black, go to Z, we definitely see it in exactly the right spot. All right, so actually almost. All right, so I'm going to move this down just a bit. Shift D, move that down. Shift D, move that down. And Shift D, move that down. Okay, let's go to Control 3. Make sure to move them all in place. Whoops, Control Z. I don't want to do that. I want to move them down to just touch the pylon. And we can zoom in here. We only want to move these up and down. We don't want to move them left and right. So just touching the pylon. Just touching the pylon. Just touching the pylon. And finally, just touching the pylon. Okay, we go to Z. Take a look at that. Excellent. All right. So now, Shift S, cursor to center. And let's try some of those user tricks here and see if they apply. So I've got my, whoops, got my pylon selected. I want to, according to this, I want to hit Shift S, cursor to selected for now, and then Control A, and apply rotation to reset all of our rotation values to 0. Shift S, cursor to center, and I want to make this 3D cursor center. We're going to try this. It doesn't necessarily need to work correctly right now, but what I want to do is I want to go to modifiers, and I want to add a mirror modifier. Okay, that did not work. Because of the center of my object. Okay. So, that plane. I want that plane back. All right, where did I move that plane? Right there. I'm going to move this to somewhere where I can easily find it. We're going to move it to layer 3. What the heck? All right, so I'm selecting layer 3 and layer 1. Okay, great. Now, if I enter that mode, I've still got that selected, that vertices selected. Shift S. I want cursor to selected. So now my cursor's right at where both pylons match. Cool. Tab out of edit mode, select my pylon, Shift, Control, Alt, C, and instead of origin to geometry, I want origin to 3D cursor. Okay, A to D, oh no, I still want it selected. All right, good, Control 3. Z, I'm going to add my mirror modifier, and let's see if this makes a difference. Move it up. Not X, but Y. And yes! We have a mirrored pylon, and the windows are ready to be filled. We're going to select our windows, and we're going to do the same thing. So Control 3, Z. We're going to Shift, Control, Alt, C. We're going to move origin to 3D cursor. We're going to, I want to zoom in and see this here. So you can see here, here, and here are my windows. Add modifier, mirror, turn off X, turn on Y. Oh, didn't work. Okay. Kill that. I guess we're going to have to zero out the rotation on the thing. All right, so let's see. Control A, rotation. Will that be enough? So mirror instead of X, Y, and it did it. Excellent. Z, the windows are exactly in the right place. Man, that is a time saver. Okay. And I really don't want to join these. We'd have to do each of these separately. But you know what? It's just not worth it until, well, okay, we'll do it. All right. So, Control A, rotation, Control A, rotation, Control A, rotation, Control A, rotation, Shift, Alt, Control C, origin to 3D cursor, Shift, Alt, Control C, origin to 3D cursor, Shift, Alt, Control C, origin to 3D cursor, and Shift, Alt, Control C, origin to 3D cursor. Control 3, Z, mirror, Y. That works like a charm. Mirror, Y, mirror, Y. Last and not least, mirror, Y. Okay, cool. Now, I'm not applying the mirror yet. we're going to texture these things, and we can have the textures be the same on both. So I'm just going to deselect, go to Z. Let's kind of take a little tour around our ship. Pardon me. We've got, let's see, I think I need an edge split on here. Does it need to be above? No. It should be working. Yeah, okay. I'm not sure why. I'm going to add a new... Oh! Silly me. Edge split down. I'm not exactly sure why that's doing that. Tell you what, I'm going to go into edit mode, A to select everything. I'm going to mesh, normals, recalculate outside, tab. That actually looks okay. Not quite sure what's going on there, but anyway, it doesn't matter. Right now, this is fine. So the ends are going to be inside the warp engines anyway, and inside the engineering hull. We've got our windows cut. We've got our placement for our, what I keep calling washboard pattern. It's not really. It's actually a series of slightly off-center holes to each other. And they all look like they are in the right place. This is actually turning out very well. Don't forget to save your work. File, save, or Control S. And next time, we will start working on the warp engines themselves. That's going to be probably a couple of tutorials, not one tutorial, because it is hideously complex. It's probably the most complex part of the model, and we will tackle that next time. Thanks for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe, and don't forget to save your work, and I'll see you next time. Thank you.